welcome to the discussion segment of the program for this Friday's New Dawn. And as you all know, a new academic session is in the air by Monday, the 28th, so to say, and the 19th of September. In Ogun State, for example, and most parts of the country, even though some are already in session, pupils and students of primary and secondary school will resume for a new academic session. You know the challenges, and of course we know how it used to be, and of course this is a very difficult time for stakeholders talking about education. But it doesn't matter how hard the time is, education must thrive. And what do we need to do to make it thrive as stakeholders? This is what we are focusing on this morning, this part of the discussion. 2022-2023 academic sessions, stakeholders input. And we have two guests in house to look at this issue with us. We have a lecturer of early childhood and care education departments of the Federal College of Education Abeokuta, who is also a seasoned administrator, Alhaji Fasiu Babatunde Amodu. Alhaji Amodu, you're welcome to the program.
It's my pleasure being here today. Thank you.
And we also have another educationist, Pastor Oluwaseyi Emmanuel Obayanju. Pastor Obayanju, you're welcome to the program as well.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning, viewer.
Well, maybe I should begin with the educationist, Pastor Emmanuel Obayanju. Of course, it's not just going to be a new time, it's going to be a new session, and that means that it's going to be a new class for majority of the pupils and students. That makes it challenging for the students and even the parents themselves in terms of preparation.
Yes, thank you, sir. It's a challenge, but it's not a big challenge. When you prepare, you won't call it a big challenge. The parents, they prepared, they know, they are aware that there was, the children will be resuming very soon. A lot of activities is going on in terms of getting the tools, the materials that the students or the pupils will be needed as they are resuming or as they are preparing to resume for the 2022-20 academic session. They are really preparing. Number one, you see the list of books given to them. They've gone to the schools. Some go to the market to purchase the books, which is the materials needed, bags, socks, and so on and so forth. They are preparing seriously. We can't call it a big challenge.
So now, let me come to you, Alhaji Fasiu. Looking at, usually in this climb, when schools resume like this, maybe the first 2 days, first 3 days, or even the first week, you observe that students or pupils may not really turn out. The turnout would actually be low, but maybe after the second week, the third week, you start seeing, most of these students coming to school. What could be responsible for this? I mean, it has always been there even before, our days, and even in our days, and even up till now, is still continuing. What could be responsible for this?
Well, I would disagree with you to some extent, because fantastically, the government of the day is doing a wonderful job in ensuring that first day of resumption, the team from the Ministry of Education usually move out to ensure that there are adequate, preparation and by extension monitoring of activities in the school. Also, with that, it is a clear indication that all the teachers will have been on ground, so that, because they won't like to lose their job as a result of that. Then the learners too will also have the grace, to have the, what we call them, tests,
welcome test.
Welcome test. So since the learners are aware that they will be writing the welcome test, which will be part of their, continuous assessment. So as a result of that, the resumption, they usually witness, a huge turnout of learners in the school these days.
Perhaps the introduction, because in our days, we never had welcome tests. Perhaps the introduction of welcome tests is to, force the children out of their houses.
Is one of the reasons why we have the welcome test in the schools. And as a result of that, it has been, assisting the turnout of the learners, particularly in the first week of resumption.
In our days, we normally had, we then welcome grass cutting. You come with your cutlass.
That was there.
And that
Now, I'll stay with Alhaji Amadu. What should be government's role? Do they perform their role effectively? When we are about, this is a new session, what should they have done? Have they done it? Or do they just play to the gallery? You see most states, those in charge of education will come out, speak big English about what they are doing to education. Are they really doing it? Now, what should be the role of government or Ministry of Education, so to say, or SUBEB, as it concerns primary school? We are concerned with government schools here because we know that if I take my child to any private school and I don't see what I expect, I can pull my child out. That's very easy. I don't care what the private people do, and of course they know that there are competitions there. But government is responsible for government schools. What should be their role? Ahead of a new session and in a new session.
The government has a lot of roles to perform in this regard. First and foremost, government is the Ministry of Education is the supervisory, ministry for the education sector in every state.
Do you know why I'm saying this? Before the end of the last session, I know that they should know the problems of this school in terms of not having adequate teachers,
yes,
especially in some core subjects. Some schools have been going about that for the past three sessions. Maybe a teacher in social studies is being forced to teach English. We know the quality of infrastructure there. Some don't have roof, some don't have what to sit on. And of course, they went like that during the holiday. They are even resuming and meeting the condition worse than they left it. This is what I'm talking about. I'm saying, what should be the role of government as per preparation ahead of a new session?
Yes, government has a lot of role, like I said earlier. And one of those roles is what we have mentioned. That is the monitoring roles. The second aspect of their major role is to ensure that there are adequate financing of educational facilities in our schools. I would not agree with you that you should be concerned about the public schools only. They also have a lot of roles to play in private schools.
That is government.
Yes.
That is government. Also, about the individual. When I say
yes,
concern, so the private school is competitive. If I go to private school A and I'm not satisfied with the condition, and I have what can make my child improve in private school B, I go. But of course, I know government too must control them. That I agree.
Yes, because there are a lot of policies that, anytime government make policy, a good number of these policies affect both, sectors, both private and public sectors of education. So that area of the financing that you are much more concerned is, is a major challenge to many schools, including the private schools. But let's leave the private schools aside. That of the public that we are talking about, yes, a lot of, until the government were able to give the right allocation recommended by UNESCO, which is 26% of the annual budget to education. That is when we'll be able to have a better, educational system, both in the states and at the federal level. So the government, as at this time, should have gone during the holiday, should have gone into the schools, take the stock of the available facilities, look at the number of enrollment, the number of teachers, then needful should have been done before now. So by going through the statistics, they would have known the number of learners that are coming in newly, knowing the number of teachers that are available for the learners. Then there are ratio of teacher learners, which should have been well taken care of. So I want to believe that to some extent, the state government is not doing badly because see the green, yellow roof everywhere. But there is still room for improvement in many of these sectors.
Pastor Bayoju, the Commissioner for Education in most states cannot, or SUBEB chairman cannot go to all the schools. And that's why we have zonal educational officers in all the local governments. I think one of their jobs is to collate what is needed in that local government as per schools, the number of schools, the number of teachers. Are they doing their job? Or will you want to say they are not doing it because they are not, how do we call it, they are not mobilized to do it? Or do they have what it takes to do the job perfectly? From your experience, how far, so far, with zonal educational officers, especially in Ogun State?
Yes, thank you, sir. They are doing it, but they are not doing it effectively. You know, the zonal authority, we have delegated authority. The commissioner of education may not have that time to go around school, but they have representative that have to represent the interest of the government in various schools. Therefore, by now, because there's one thing that we call running cost that used to be given to the principal or head teacher. By now, such running costs
Should have been given.
should have been given in preparation for the 2022-2020 academic session. Government should not wait for the school to resume a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or a month before such thing is being released to them. That is the way the zonal coordinator or the zonal authority have to come in. They have to have a round table meeting that these social schools need to be attended to. There are some schools that require urgent attention in terms of rehabilitations.
Yeah,
there are some dilapidated schools that the government needs to have worked upon, but most of the schools left like that since the school vacated. Nothing has been done in some schools. Government should not wait till today before things is being done. We need to work on it. That is the aspect of the preparation and the input of the government. Parents are doing their own. They are preparing their children by buying books, by supplying the necessary things for the children, for the student. But the government needs to play their own role. They need to do the needful. They shouldn't wait until the school resumes before the grant is being released to those concerning the authority.
Maybe as we proceed in the conversation, we'll still dwell on what the government really can do more, in that regard, as far as resumption and the rest of them are concerned. But let us also look at another major stakeholder, or let me say, the most important stakeholder, in the education sector. And I'm talking about the educators themselves, the teachers. Because they are the ones who are the carrier of the knowledge and, of course, the information, and they are the ones who are going to pass across this information to the people. If you go to most schools across the states today, both private and public, you discover that most teachers are there as we speak. Maybe they are, cleaning their staff rooms, they are writing their lesson notes and the rest of them. And in terms of preparation, what are those things really that they should really do? Fine, they've been teaching, but what are those preparations? What are those eyes that they should, dot?
With or without running cost?
Those T's that they should cross.
Yes, you see, the area of educator is most germane, and I want to believe by now every school should have organized, series of trainings for their, educators, for their teachers, ranging from attending workshops, seminars, conferences, both physical and perhaps online, because you cannot use, education is so funny, education is so dynamic. The method you use in the morning today may not even be relevant tomorrow. So, and that is the essence of updating and upgrading your knowledge as an educator. So you cannot be a teacher without, improving in whatever you have already. I'm not expecting any teacher to bring in the same knowledge he used as at the end of last session into this new session. So the government should also, and should have even organized. I am aware of the vocational training the government is organizing for the vocational teachers, which is a right, a right idea, a very good one. However, what about other aspects? What about other teachers? So there is need for training and retraining for the teachers. And I will also appeal to our teachers not to even wait till the school management or the government organize trainings for them. This thing is even going to assist them individually. Equally, I always advise that anytime we want to enter into a new session like this, there is need for them to uphold what I try to be my own personal 5 Ps. The first one is passion. You cannot be a teacher without having a great passion for doing it.
Obviously.
Because there are numbers of things you will lose as a teacher. So if care is not taken, you will pull out at the end of the day.
You must be in love with that job.
You must. Passionately, you must love that profession. Knowing fully well that you are in charge of lives. That is the first. Second thing is, I take that to be professionalism. Professionalism is very important. There is need for the touch of technical know-how of whatever you want to do as a teacher. While the third one that I type to be proactiveness. So a good teacher must have a foresight, you must be creative, you must be strategical, you must, have the idea of what exactly you want to do and how to go about it. The fourth one is planning. You cannot be a teacher without being a very good, planner. So you must be a good planner. You should be able to know what time do I want to do this? When am I going to the class? When am I to mark? When am I to, give the assignment and all this? This will assist you not to waste the time of the learners, and you will be able to achieve, greatly. And the last one is the prayer, because we believe in the efficacy of prayer. So then teachers should also be conscious of their health. Health is wealth. There is what we call, burnout. We talk from morning till afternoon. So there is, I will still appeal to the government. There are numbers of things the government needs to do, to help the life of teachers. Many teachers are dying because of, the stipends being collected on monthly basis, both in private and public. Because even the remuneration the teachers got from the public is not even commensurating the effort they are putting into the system. So they need to jack it up. I know of Germany, where the highest pay in the country are the teachers. Because the question the former president of Germany was asking, how will you collect money, other sector when they were yarning and, agitating? The question the woman asked was, how would you collect more than your teacher? You cannot collect more than somebody who taught you. So these are the areas we need to work on.
Before you leave that aspect, governments can come up with 1,001 reasons why, because it's not education alone that they are catering for. You want to see you. But what about private schools? Astronomical increase in school fees, yet it is not reflecting in the salaries of the teachers. And they expect them to be passionate, they expect them to be committed, they expect them to actually make the students feel that they are home away from home. Is that a wickedness?
I won't agree to that. It's not easy to even run the standard school you are talking about. Running a standard school is all encompasses. It is capitally intensive.
So they are justified to pay their teachers poorly?
Not poorly. I won't agree to that. I do tell, anytime I have a seminar for the school owners, I give them statistics. 40% should go for the staff remuneration from whatever you generated. Then 40% should also go for the development of the facilities. Both the facilities and the teachers are very, very important. Then the remaining 20% can then be used, for the running cost and all that. So any school, then this also depends on the amount being charged. The schools are not the same. We have schools still paying about 10,000, 12,000 naira per term. Then how do you want such a school, to pay the teacher as expected? So a lot of things are involved. Even the provision of facilities, management and maintenance of facilities and all this. It's a big task.
Pastor Luwaizi, yes. Are you a private school owner?
No, I don't.
Because I could see your agitation when I asked that question, and I'm going to allow you to answer.
I want to quickly comment.
Go ahead.
Your question is based or streamlined on the grown-up schools, B schools. It's not that some school owner don't want to pay the teachers, but let me remind you, most of the private schools, they are profit-oriented organization. They want to make profit. For example, most of them are not yet on their permanent site. Most of them don't have structure on their own. By the time the school fees is coming, they have a budget. They have a target that this so time or this so session, I want to acquire my land called a permanent site. Because most of the schools that have not been upgraded, the Ministry of Education is not even giving them the adequate approval. Some schools that are not writing WAEC, they want to write WAEC next session. There are some things they need to put in place, like laboratory. All these things requires money. Then for them to put it, that is why they normally affect the salary of the teacher. But most of them that have structure, they have the lab, they have everything, then they pay teachers well. I'm telling you, in Ogun State. But most of the upcoming school, they are the one that pay stipend. Like 15, like 20, like 30, and thereabout. There's some private school that pay 50, that pay 70 to their teachers. Why? Because they have structures on ground. They know that now is profit and they've acquired some facilities. Once you have this cup, you can't buy this cup again. You have the chemistry lab, you have the laboratory for biology, and so on and so forth. They pay well. But most of the school that's just coming, that these are the people that are still paying.
Are you aware that during holidays, some private teachers are not paid? Is that why can't you plan for that? They must go on holiday. You can define a way of using them during holiday to prepare for the new session, but not paying them totally because the students are on holiday. Is it justified?
No, it's not too good.
No, it's not too good.
It's not too good. Nobody, I wouldn't subscribe to that.
But you know it happens.
It happens. So the school owners should please look into that. I will encourage school owners to look into that and see how they can make their teachers comfortable.
Okay, let's come back to government school now. Last Monday, the governor met here, head of the primary school, and made promise to provide, to renovate all primary schools. The Yellow Roof project is also ongoing in all the 236 wards across the state. That's talking about Ogun State. I also know that the Commissioner for Education have held series of meetings with stakeholders. Even the Honorable Commissioner will be meeting principals this morning here in Abeokuta at the Abeokuta Grammar School premises. Now, to the parents, another important factor, another important stakeholder. Government, for example, in Ogun State provides free education. To what extent?
Not totally free.
Fine, not totally free, okay? Now, to what extent has this free education galvanized parents to actually say, okay, this aspect that the government is not providing, let me also do my best so that I can bring out the best in my child? Or to what extent have it made them to relax? That's my question.
Okay. Well, let me first and foremost, I would like to say one or two things as regards, because parents are the major factor in this school planning or preparation for resumption. So I would like to say one or two things as the part of what parent needs to do.
Go ahead.
For the resumption. Many times we believe it should be of study tools, back to school materials and all that. No. The first thing parents need to do is to ensure that the health of their children are fit for resumption. Because health is wealth, and a child that is not in good health condition, there's absolutely nothing a teacher will, pass on to such a child. Secondly, there is what our parents used to do in the olden days, which has been, it's not part of the system or the way the parents of today are doing it. And the thing is, the parent will sit the children down. You are resuming next week. Remember the child of whom you are. When you get to school, keep a good company. All these things are very, very essential. Particularly those that are moving from the primary school to secondary school now. They need to have a better orientation. They need to give them, the information of what exactly they are going there to meet. These are responsibilities of parents. Even I also, encourage schools to also do same, so that child will not just lose into, or run into wrong hands. Equally, parent needs to ensure safety of their children, then the security as well. You know, to and fro, we also know the level of insecurity as far as Nigeria is concerned today. So all these things have to be looked at into. Now, as regards the last question, well, the government, we will still continue to encourage the government. And I will continue to uphold the fact that that 26%, you know, annual budget or allocation into education will do us a lot of good and will assist, and will take away all this, you know, mess that we are witnessing in our schools. Then the parents too should always come to the aid of the government. Government cannot do it all. So whatever we can do, take for instance when the issue of ASU is, you know, becoming unbecoming. We had some parents that they were trying to gather themselves and see how they can also be of assistance. So no school can, in fact, government too cannot run their school, talk of private school. Financing education is enormous, is too expensive. You know, sometimes you will use the material in the morning, and before you know it in the afternoon, that material will not be ready.
That's my worry, Pastor Oluwaizi. Governments have said the Parents Teachers Forum, not under compulsion, or you cannot send any student out because of what the Parents Teachers Forum agreed to pay to actually help the school. We know that in some subjects where they don't have teachers, the Parents Teachers Forum come together, employ PTA teachers, pay them. And
they don't pay them. They pay them stipends. And
I know, stipends. Okay, stipends. That's what I mean. Yes, I've had the experience before. I was once a teacher. I also know that they charge minimally. They come to the PTA meeting and say, let us pay 1,000. But to your surprise, many of these parents will not pay because they know that they cannot send their children away from school. This is the attitude I'm talking about. What do you have to say to this? How do you want to advise such parents? If you cannot pay just 1,000 naira per term for the Parents Teachers Forum to run and put some things that you just said it, the government cannot do it alone. But are the parents ready to contribute their little quota as well?
Yes, my advice to the parents, you know, parents need to rise up to their own responsibility.
At times they won't buy just one textbook they won't buy.
You are right. You can't leave your own part, your own responsibility for the government to do for you. Free education is not even free. You can't say government is running a free education. Are you still expecting the government to buy uniform for your child? Are you still expecting the government to provide the seat, the locker for your child? Are you still expecting the government to provide books, even the writing material? Look at what happened a few months back when they were about to sign the undertaking for those children that were disturbing the school. Do you know that the form released, there are some parents that still went ahead and report some principal to government that this principal is collecting 15 naira for photocopy. The undertaking was sent to school on a soft copy. Some school doesn't have printing material. They don't have a machine to be. They are now asking the parent, please, if you need this form, because this thing have to be on a hard copy, so that there can be an agreement for the parent to sign. The school bring 15 naira so that we can make a photocopy. Because of 15 naira, they said no. Government has printed this form and has been given to school. They went ahead and be reporting to government. No, some parents at times they are so funny. I'm telling you, they are so funny. It's like they don't even know the essence of education. When they know the value of education, they will know that they have a role to play in the life of their children.
No doubt. Okay, you want to make addition?
Yes,
okay.
You see, I cannot, sometimes I would like to blame parents because it is the government that is painting it all to be free. Even anywhere across the globe, no education will never be free. And as much you cannot come to their home to carry them, take them to school and return them back home, get them all the necessary materials needed, then it's not free. So it is when we begin to let the parents aware that they also have a role and responsibilities to play. So when they understand, take for instance, this issue of undertaking, at least to some extent, it causes all this, not saying many parents, burst into this school and do all sorts of things. Even the learners, they are being charged, and they restricted their level of truancy in schools until the government come with policies that will enhance, the productivity and effectiveness of education through the stakeholders. And the major stakeholders in education, apart from the teachers and the learners, are the parents and the government. So until they come in synergy and they come together and see how they can, share their responsibilities and let the individual know what exactly you need to contribute for this system to continue to be in place. Until we all do that. I could remember a former governor of the state tried to scrap this WAEC, payment of WAEC fee. Before that time, many parents don't even see it as a duty, because they know somebody has paid for the WAEC, they don't even bother to, coerce and force their children to read,
to study.
So, but now they know that if the child failed, he will still go for GCF, go for NECO and all of that. They ensure that they monitor their children to ensure that they read and the improvement, that we witness the improvement in the performance of these children. So
we have talked about what government needs to do. We have talked about what even parents also need to do. Let us look at preparation on the part of the students, the child himself, the pupil. Of course, they are the recipients of knowledge, and no matter how perfect the efforts of the government or the teachers could be, if the child himself or herself is not bringing very positive disposition to learning, all of those efforts made by government will be nothing. So what would you really suggest should be the disposition or should be the preparation on the part of the pupils?
Yes, the first thing we need to do, it has to start with the parents, to begin to sink it into their hearing that you are going back to school. Why going back to school? These are what I am expecting from you. The parent can also give their children minimum targets. Last session, you came home with fifth position or maybe 80%. This time around, your target is 90%. Do you get that? So that will, and the parent should also try as much as possible to give the child a kind of supporting hand in getting that target achieved. Now, on the side of the first thing the child or the children or the student need to do is to be prepared. They should be ready. We call something readiness in education. Readiness is that I'm ready to take whatever I'm going to school or whatever my teacher is going to teach me. I'm ready to take it from them. Attending classes, writing notes, participating in all activities, being laid out by the school, following the rules and regulation of the school. All these things put together are what the students need to.
Okay, one last question for Pastor Oluwaizi before we round off the program. Talking about books needed, I know that we don't have too much problems in the quality and of course adequate textbooks from government, but well, maybe the way the supervision comes into the government level, a thorough one. For private schools, when you look at recommended textbooks, are they based on what is actually needed or familiarity with the publishers? That's my question.
Yes, it's not the familiarity with the publishers. Most of these schools that the students are using is being recommended by the school authority, like the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
There is no publisher that can single-handedly go to the school to go and say book without the consent from the Ministry of Education. They pass through. It is the Ministry of Education that will go through the textbook, that this so math textbook is okay for the student. This is also English and so on and so forth. By the time the Ministry of Education approves this textbook, then the publisher will not work on this textbook to produce them, then go to the school to go and do their marketing.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. We've been looking at 2022-2023 academic sessions, stakeholders' inputs, and we have robust discussion this morning with two wonderful guests in the house, Alhaji Fasiu Babatunde Amodu, lecturer, Early Childhood and Care Education Department, Federal College of Education, Abeokuta. Thank you very much for coming.
It's my pleasure. Thank
of
you,
course,
sir.
Pastor Oluwa Easy. I like the name. I've not come across it for the first time.
Thank you.
I was saying Oluwa Sheyi before. Oluwa Easy.
Easy.
Well, okay, good one. Oluwa is easy for me too.
Yes, sir.
Pastor Oluwa Easy Emmanuel Obayonju, thank you very much also
My
for coming.
pleasure. Thank you, sir.
You're still watching the Friday edition of the program. That's the end of the first segment of the discussion parts of the program. We'll be back shortly with another guest.